I go once a week because that's how Erbitux works. You need to get it once a week. And currently Erbitux is the most expensive chemo drug or anti-cancer drug on the market, but it's not available in Ontario. So I'm on my last known drug to work to keep my disease at bay. When I have choices, when I know there's drugs available for me, I have hope. And when I have hope, I can relax and continue to enjoy life despite knowing I have a life-threatening disease. In my world, money equals drugs equals life. I've spent $100,000 in about 2 years. You know, I always thought that I was taken care of between my workplace and my country. I am not your typical colon cancer patient. Usually a 65-year-old man who's overeaten, oversmoked, overdrank, and don't exercise. And that's farthest from my way of living. So it's kind of a kick in the pants, to be very honest, to get this kind of disease. And when I get to customs and they say, well, why can't you get the drugs in Canada? And I'm thinking, yeah, buddy, if I could get the drugs in Canada, I wouldn't be coming here. But of course, you can't be sarcastic or rude. So I say, well, this is because I can't get the drugs in Canada, I go here. And the last 6 months has gotten significantly easier. What's the purpose of your trip? Roswell Park for cancer treatment, go ahead. Going back through Canada Customs, they're far more, oh, you look familiar, you've been here before? Yeah, just about every week. And so I have to go get my blood work done now, wait for the doctor, and then wait for treatment. So it's 8 o'clock now, so it's a good 6 or 7 hour day, and it's a lot of waiting around.
Well, when we found out Suzanne Aucoin had cancer, it came as a terrible blow to all of us. Certainly because she was 28 years old, and also because Suzanne spent an awful lot of time as a chaplain helping people in very similar circumstances.
The doctor indicated that it was a very first level or low level cancer, which had been gotten early, and as a result, there would be no repercussions.
So they told me I was basically cured. There was a 95% cure rate.
And about 2.5 years ago, when she said she wasn't feeling well, and she was especially tired fairly consistently, and she didn't understand it, she went for tests.
And it came back on October 31st, I remember it was Halloween, that there was a large mass on my liver, and I panicked, and I knew right away that the cancer had returned and that pretty much I was screwed. I was in the best shape of my life when I was re-diagnosed in November 2003. I had been training for mountain bike races, I had regular gym activities, I bought a condo, my career was thriving. I was in a really good space in terms of my choices and my living, and to say the least, I was shocked when I was re-diagnosed.
Also, what was more devastating was that it had spread. It wasn't just localized in her colon, but it was in other locations as well, which created a sense of a very serious despair and loss of hope.
And she was diagnosed at that point with 4th stage colon cancer. We all knew what that was to some degree, realizing that there's no 5th stage.
And when he told me that there is no cure, I was pretty much devastated. And then I asked the question, which I wish I didn't ask, but I think everyone always wants to know, well, how long do I have? And he said 2 years.
So it was pretty bad. That was hard to take. That was a very difficult time for all of us.
In a bit of a roller coaster mode and just trying to function. At that point, I stopped working. It was November 17th, and I haven't been back to work since then.
She got herself sorted out where she determined what could be done, and she basically has gone through over 2 years of chemotherapy.
Chemo is meant to, it kills all the bad cells and the good cells. Anti-cancer drugs are gene-targeted therapies, so they go after the cancer cells and they try to mix them up by either jamming their communication pathways, by jamming their reproduction pathway. So they target the fast replicating cells that are known to be cancer cells. So they don't harm the rest of your body the same way that chemo does. And when combined with chemo, they show to be very effective. So upon advice of a couple doctors, I decided to go with Avastin.
Suzanne was also very proactive in looking for appropriate medication that would help her cause. She ended up having to go to the United States to secure the medicine, and then have it brought back to Hamilton in order for it to be administered.
Avastin was actually the cheaper drug. Erbitux was running at about $34,000 US a month at that time. It's come down a little bit, but it's still the most expensive cancer drug on the market. And I knew as a teacher that I just don't have the funds to pay for these kind of drugs. I need to be a millionaire to be able to get the best health care.
Her parents were going to have to go into their savings. She was going to have to sell her condominium. It was going to become extremely stressful from a financial point of view.
We would do what most parents would do. We'll just find the money and we'll deal with the aftermath at a later time.
I think it's hard for my parents to see me not doing what I want to do in terms of my life goals. I also think it's really hard for them to know that their only daughter is probably going to die from this, you know. And I just know as a parent, like I'm not a parent, but I just know that they probably feel really helpless at times because they can't take this away from me.
She's trying to come to understand why this has happened to her. However, that is quickly been flipped to, well, look, I have it. I'm going to deal with it this way. And my way of dealing with it is, again, like our classic poster, Suzanne with boxing gloves on, I'm fighting cancer.
I started a committee. I approached a few people in my community and asked them to help me fundraise.
She asked me to help organize events that would raise money to help pay for her medication.
Suzanne.com came after I started the fundraising committee in August 2004. It allows people to know what's happening with the trust account that we've created that we use to fund these treatments in the U.S. It also helps to let people know about upcoming fundraising events, the latest media coverage, ways to help, ways to donate.
We need to have funds set aside to deal with some very expensive drugs and treatments that will come up down the road. And if we'd had the insurance, then I'd like to think that we would have had the financial coverage required so that we could have gone, she would have gone more directly at them. And perhaps she could have gotten into some of her treatments earlier.
However, I don't have it, so I don't benefit from it. I was saddened to know that it existed and I'd never heard of it because I'm someone who's a living example of how you can greatly benefit from this policy. The bottom line is, if I did have it, 30 days upon diagnosis, you receive a lump sum of money that's tax-free that you get to do with what you want. And that can cover lawyers' fees, doctor's visits to the U.S., treatment, loss of income, modifications to your home. It's your lump sum amount, so you do with it what you need. So the good news is that it exists. The bad news is I learned about it far too late. When I already am diagnosed with a critical illness, I'm no longer eligible for it. And it's like that feeling when you learned about an investment opportunity that you should have known about 5 years ago. It just would have made much more sense for me. But at 28 years old, we're not really thinking about dying or having a critical illness. I'm determined to share my story with people so that they can learn from it and hopefully inspire them to make better choices for themselves.